Tariq Ali, writer and tireless campaigner for peace. Tariq.
Dear friends, as previous speakers have pointed out, what took place in the House of Commons a few days ago was not unexpected. Once it became clear that the Tories were imposing a three-line whip to get their MPs to vote for war, the choices, in my opinion, then, after that decision, became very simple. Labour should have done the same. I think it was a tactical error not to do so, but in any event, we're paying the price. Not, it should be pointed out, that even if every Labour MP had voted against this war, the Tories still would have won with the extra votes they got from the one UKIP guy, the bulk of the Lib Dems, the Orangemen from Northern Ireland, etc., etc. They probably would have pulled through, though it would have been more difficult to do so. But let's discuss now what was said by the leader of the opposition within the Labour Party, Hilary Benn. I said outside the Houses of Parliament on our demonstration the other day that there were 4 wars going on, and that the 4th war was a war in this country being waged against Jeremy Corbyn by the bulk of the mass media, the Conservative Party, and a large chunk of his own party. And it became very obvious that Benn, I have no idea who wrote that appalling speech, could have been a computer, because exactly the same type of speech was made by Tony Blair when he defended the war in Iraq and going into Iraq. Exactly the same speech was made by Michael Foot when he backed Thatcher's war against Argentina on the Falklands. A very similar speech was made by Sir Anthony Eden in 1956 when he went with the Israelis and the French to invade Egypt and had to withdraw in a humiliating fashion. And the speech, the core of Hilary Benn's stupid speech, was that we were fighting fascism. It seems that we never really won the Second World War because fascism has got stronger and stronger ever since. I mean, every single war has been characterized as a war against fascism. So we supposedly destroyed fascism in Iraq, and it got stronger. It's still there. We destroyed fascism in Libya, and it's still around. What does that indicate? It indicates, even on the level of their own thought, accepting their arguments, that they've got it terribly wrong, that this is not the way to fight within inverted commas fascism. That's obvious. But of course it isn't fascism, as we know. These are groups which have arisen and have come into existence through the wars that the American empire and its vassal states have waged in the Muslim world, and particularly in the Arab world, which has now been under or in a state of war longer than the First and Second World Wars put together. And we know exactly what happens when populations are bombed. We know what happens when cities are bombed. We know the reaction of Europeans when there are terrorist attacks on their cities. Why then can't Europe and North America imagine what it is like for the Arab world when it is being bombed every single day? to be frank, I thought more Labour MPs might vote for the war. I have to be honest. I thought more of them might. So that 66 did is a disgrace, but that a majority of them didn't is a small step forward. And what it suggests is that lobbying them, arguing with them, telling them that their constituents are opposed to this war, and there's no bullying, but of course there is a warning that if you carry on like this, your support is going to drain away even from inside the Labour Party. Because these tens of thousands of young people who've joined the Labour Party, I don't envy them sitting through Labour Party internal meetings if they do it, but people know that they have to do something. And they have to elect MPs who they trust, who defend the policies of this party. And the interesting thing is that virtually every wing of the Labour Party now, which was consulted, voted against the war. So these MPs are in direct opposition to their own party policies. And when the left used to do that, the wrath of heaven, or rather hell, used to descend upon them. And now they're doing it. So what is the future hold? The future for the Arab world, it looks bleak, I have to say this. Because it's almost as if virtually all progressive forces have been wiped out over the last 20 years through one way or the other. The vacuum is creating organizations and groups who have not existed before, but who are not unknown. Because when the Americans first decided that they were going to wage a jihad, which is what they called it, against the Soviet army in Afghanistan, when they decided that, they knew what they were doing. The origin of virtually all these jihadi groups lies in that jihad which they waged on the borders of Pakistan and Afghanistan, backed by the Arabs. And the monsters are now out of control. They're out of control because you dumped them. And they didn't like it when you waged the Gulf War and occupied Saudi Arabia to do so. And they're reproducing themselves in weirder ways every day. And we must never forget who is responsible for this. You know, earlier on, soon after the Iraq War began in earnest, when I argued that what we were witnessing was a process of recolonization, many people doubted this. But that is exactly what was happening. They have systematically now destroyed every single Arab country which was sovereign. We might not have liked its governments, but they were sovereign states. And the sovereignty of Iraq, the sovereignty of Libya, the sovereignty of Syria has been destroyed by Western bombers. And Gulf money is funding this together with Saudi money, backed with Western armies. And they will want to create little statelets which they can control and which will keep the Israelis happy. That is what is going on behind the wall. That is the real purpose of this war. And that is why it's going to be a long haul. The government have announced the war might go on for 3 years and get more complicated. Well, we're here to say, stop the war is here, and we'll go on for as long as it takes to make sure that we oppose every single move made by this government.